You know, most us versus them dynamics do not begin with a big blow up. They begin with a story. Hi, I'm Jen Kronberger, and this is Brave in 5. Often it's a quiet story, a familiar one, a story we tell ourselves about the other team. Finance is rigid, sales is reckless, HR is soft, operations is impossible, leadership is disconnected, IT always says no. And the more pressure people are under, the faster those stories actually harden. Because stories help us simplify complexity. They help us protect our identity, and they help us feel like the good guys in a system that often feels messy and unfair. But here's the problem. The stories we tell about them eventually become the way we lead around them. If I believe your team is always difficult, I stop coming to you early. If I believe you do not understand the business, I explain less and just assume more. If I believe you're the blocker, I start building my case against you before we even talk. And just like that, the relationship is already fractured before the meeting ever begins. This is how silos deepen, not just through structure, but through story. And most of the time, these stories are not completely false. That is what makes them dangerous. Maybe that team really has slowed things down. Maybe your team really has been left holding the bag. Maybe there's history here. But a story can be rooted in something real and still become too small to hold the full truth. That is where leaders have to get brave, because leadership is not just about managing priorities. It's about managing the narratives that shape how people interpret each other. So the question isn't, is our story about them totally wrong? The better question is our story about them still useful, still fair, and still human? That question changes things. Because once a story becomes fixed, it stops being insight and it starts being identity. They are always political. They're the only ones who care. They never bring solutions. We are the only adults in the room. You can feel what those stories do. They make curiosity actually impossible. They make empathy feel naive. They make collaboration feel like betrayal. And if you're a leader repeating these stories, even casually, even in frustration, you are teaching your team how to see the other side. That is why this matters so much. Your team does not only absorb your strategy, they absorb your framing. So what do you do instead? First, catch the shorthand. Notice the repeated phrases your team uses about the other group, the eye rolls, the jokes, the quick labels. That's not harmless. That is culture formation in real time. Second, interrupt the certainty. When someone says they never think ahead, you might ask, what pressure might they be under that we're not seeing? When someone says they always block us, you might say, what are they protecting that feels non-negotiable from where they sit? You are not asking people to agree. You're asking them to get more honest about the complexity. And then third, tell a bigger story. A bigger story sounds like we're both trying to do good work inside a system that rewards different things. Or maybe they're not just being difficult, they're likely carrying a set of constraints we do not fully understand yet. That does not erase the tension. However, it rehumanizes the people inside it. So here's your Brave in 5 reflection this week. First, what story does your team most often tell about another team? Say it plainly, don't sanitize it. Second, how might that story be shaping your behavior before the meeting even begins? What assumptions are already in the room because of it? And then third, what is one sentence you can use this week to widen the story instead of harden it? Maybe it's, I think we're telling a very flat story about them right now. What might we be missing? Or before we label them as the problem, let's get more honest about what they may be protecting. You don't have to make the tension disappear, but you do have to be careful not to let a tired story become a permanent truth. Because once that happens, people stop working with each other and start working around each other. And that never ends well. Stay human, lead brave.